Hey everyone, welcome to Tent Tuesdays. We've been talking all week about abortion and right to life issues, and so I'm kind of going to divide two separate things here today. And one is the question of whether or not abortion is moral and whether or not it's legal. And those two issues, unfortunately, have a tendency to converge. And there are a lot of complexities as to why they converge. But I'm going to try to divide them separately because I think there are inherent things within these issues that are often blended together and why it has a tendency to cause so much confusion. So I'm going to try to divide those two things biblically for you in two different parts here between today and tomorrow. So the first part I'm going to talk about is whether or not abortion is moral in general, and why I think it's moral or immoral. So people who are believers in God believe that all of us exist because God has ordained our existence. So if you believe that, then you believe that all lives matter, that life intrinsically has value. And the one who assigned the value to your life is Yeshua, is Jesus, the one who died for you when he said, I have bought you with a price. So if the Lord has bought you with a price, then your life has value. He has assigned value to you so that you would know that you are worth something. So when you know that life has value, when you know that your existence is worth something, that your future destiny matters to the Lord, then cutting any of that short is going to be a sin, no matter what stage you do it at. Whether you do it at conception, whether you do it at 6 months, 8 months, whether you do it after the person is born. If a person's life intrinsically has value, and you cut that off, then you're saying ultimately that you're the one who gets to decide what lives matter and what lives don't matter. And no government, no mother, no person, no one absolutely should have the right to decide when life matters. That is intrinsically 100% up to God because He's the one who made you. So that comes at the crux of the matter for people who are pro-lifers, for people who are believers. So I think that when we're discussing this issue and this topic, we need to be very careful because I've read a lot of things online and people's comments, about abortion to say we should allow abortion because all the kids that are going to end up in foster care if we don't, from mothers who don't really care about their children. Or what if, kids have, defects or something like that, whatever, those kinds of things. And those arguments for people who believe that God has created existence, that God has created life, that God has meaning and value for you, those arguments don't exist because your circumstances in life don't change your value to God. It's as simple as that, really. Doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter whether you come from a poor family or a rich family. It doesn't matter, whether you have health problems, you don't have problems. It doesn't matter. Your value to God is intrinsic. And that's the reason, even when God was asking the children of Israel to come and bring their offering, and everybody, no matter how old or how young you were, you had to bring the same amount of money. Half shekel. That's what you brought before the Lord. Every single person, that's what they brought. Because it doesn't matter who you are in life, it matters to God that you exist because He's brought you here for such a time as this, for a reason, for a purpose, for a plan, for a vision for your life. So when we allow governmental agencies or mothers even to determine whether or not their child has value or not, what we're intrinsically doing is taking that right, that determination of value of a person from the hands of God and putting it in the hands of man. And that's not okay when you are a Bible-believing person. Now, trying to explain that to someone else who maybe doesn't believe in God or claims to not believe in God is another question. But for us who are believers, that's really the bottom line of this issue. God is the one who decides who's valuable and who isn't. And to God, everybody is valuable because He's the one who ordained your existence. So no one else can determine how much you're worth. Only God can determine how much you're worth. And the fact that He came down from His throne in heaven and the Messiah sacrificed Himself for you, gave literally everything He had on the tree of sacrifice for you, shed His blood for you, shows how valuable every single being is to Him. Because if there was only one who needed Him to die, He would have done so, because that's how much you mean to Him. That Yeshua would have left the 99 to come after the one. That's how much you mean to Him. So when we talk about abortion and the 63.5 million children who have been killed in this country alone since Roe v. Wade, it's absolutely tragic. It's tragic. It's horribly tragic. Because God assigned value to all those people's lives. And if you guys have never seen the video, I encourage you to check it out, where Mother Teresa addresses Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and a lot of the Democrats at a dinner one time when they were president. And she basically goes in front of the entire group of people. And her speech as the guest speaker was basically this: you know, this world wouldn't have so many problems if you didn't kill off all the people who might have had the solutions. And that's the long and the short of her speech. Now, she was far more eloquent than I was just now. But that's really the crux of what she's saying. God has a plan for everybody. And when we cut that life short, we are the ones, society is the ones who are diminished because of it. And there are a lot of people who have theories and say, oh, abortion should be okay because of population control or resource issues. This is all complete nonsense, because the people who you are killing off are people who would have had solutions to food problems, water problems, whatever. Hello? So that argument just doesn't hold water, so to speak, with the Lord. Because if He ordained your existence, it's because you have a reason and a purpose to be here. Not just to take up space and to steal resources from other people. So unfortunately, that is a very godless view and doesn't represent us as believers. So I just wanted to make it very clear, because a lot of times people have walked through their lives, have had bad experiences with their parents, with their teachers, with other people who have made them feel unworthy or unimportant. And the truth of the matter is, no one can assign value to your life but God. No one, not even you yourself, can assign value to you. Only God can do that. And so all lives matter. So hear that word from the Lord if you know that you still have some pain within your heart of people who've made you feel like you were unimportant or unwanted. That's the devil, because God ordained your existence. Period. End of story. So when we come to other comments, which I'll talk about next time, about legal issues, I'll leave that for then. But God has ordained your existence. So when we talk about issues of abortion, there's really two things that really come up more often than not that people bring as arguments against abortion, so to speak. And one is the health of the mother. What if something happens and the mother isn't well, or she's injured, or the baby is causing some kind of distress and the mother's life is in danger? What happens in that scenario? Well, as in any case, regardless of how old the child is, adult or baby, in utero or otherwise, if someone is pursuing your life to try to kill you, you have the right to defend yourself. That's just common sense, right? So it doesn't matter how old the child is, whether it's 3 months, 4 months, 12 years old, it doesn't matter. If someone is pursuing your life to kill you, you have the right to protect yourself. And that doesn't mean that your life matters more than the other person. It means that the person is putting you in a situation trying to make you a victim. And so the mother has the right to protect herself. So if a mother is in a case in which the child is basically stealing all her vitamins, as happens with preeclampsia or whatever, and the mother's life is to the point where she is gravely ill, it is literally a life or death situation, she has the right to protect herself from the baby who is ultimately attacking her. Whether the baby is intentionally doing it or not is another question. But the fact still remains that the mother has the right to defend herself, even against her own child. So it's a sad situation, but it is allowable biblically. So if you are in that situation, then abortion is okay. However, if you are not to the point of literal death, then abortion is not okay. It's only okay if a life or death situation is happening where one is going to live and one is going to die. That's the only situation in which abortion is 100% allowable. And so the next question comes. So I get that often all the time. Oh, what about the mothers? What about the mothers? I don't know of any pro-life person, and maybe I'm wrong, but I have never met a pro-life person who says, yeah, just let the mothers die. I mean, I've never heard anybody say that. Everyone has the right to protect themselves, and I think that's just basic common sense. So people use this argument that I don't think anybody is actually even arguing about. But anyway, part 2 kind of goes with this, but not really. So the next thing people are constantly talking about is rape or incest related issues. What happens if a woman is raped, or her cousin or her uncle or her father or somebody, is injuring her? What do you do in those situations if she gets pregnant from that? Is it okay in those situations to have an abortion? So some people will argue, well, you know what? Maybe the physical health of the mother isn't in danger, but maybe her emotional health is. Well, I understand this argument, but personally I'm going to disagree. And I'm going to tell you why I disagree. So this is not to diminish the reality of what happens during rape or incest. It doesn't take away the gruesome nature of what occurred and what the devil is trying to do in the lives of women to change their love map, to make them insulated and to withhold love from others is really the point of rape. Rape doesn't have anything to do with sex. Rape has to do with violence. It has to do with wanting to assert yourself over someone else, make them feel lesser. That's what rape has to do with. It doesn't have to do with sex. But because women are taught to guard their sexuality and their privacy and their private places, to violate someone in those areas makes a person who is, spiritually corrupt. It makes them feel like they're some way superior, which is complete nonsense, but it's a delusion. And so I just want to make that point that rape has nothing to do with sex. It has to do with violence. And so people's argument that a woman should be allowed to kill her child that's the product of rape because she was raped makes no sense to me. So you were violated and you were harmed and someone committed a violence against you. So you're going to commit a violence against someone else and somehow that's going to repair or make the situation in any way better? I don't honestly think that that's true. And I'm pretty willing to bet that if there were statistics on such a thing, which I'm not sure that there are, that it would not prove that in any way, shape, or form. Violence begets violence. And that's the truth of the situation. That's why generation after generation, people often have the same family problems. An alcoholic has a tendency to, model that for their children and whatever. So one person being violated doesn't make sense to violate someone else. What every woman should be doing is cutting off violence from their lives. That's what's going to empower you. That's what's going to give you victory in your life. It's not by committing violence to someone else. Two wrongs are never, ever, ever going to make a right. And so people's argument with this makes no sense. And I'm going to tell you something as well. Growing up, I had a friend in grade school. Her grandmother was raped. And she chose to have her son. I don't think at those times maybe abortion was allowed then. But anyway, she chose to have her son. And her mother, my friend's mother, who was now the sister of the brother who was born from rape, had openly said, I am so happy that my mother did not abort my brother. And all the other siblings felt exactly the same way. We would never have had our brother had our mother, aborted him. And so the grandmother never regretted her decision. All the siblings never regretted their decision, or never regretted feeling like, why is he here type of thing. And so I just look at that and I say to myself, if someone who I, was a few degrees difference from me, who I had actual experience to know, was the benefit of someone's product of rape because they chose love over hate, they chose compassion over violence, and their lives were benefited. Everyone's life was benefited because of it, because all lives matter. Because God ordains existence, that even though something happened that wasn't okay, God will bless through that, even that violence. And when people go around who are godless, who say, you should just kill the child because the emotional well-being of the mother, and the whole thing like that, what they're ultimately saying is that God doesn't have the power to redeem the situation. What they're ultimately saying is that no good can come from this situation. And as a believer, I cannot rubber stamp this message. I simply cannot. God has the ability to redeem every situation, every person, period. That's the love of our Father. And to try to say anything otherwise is simply anti-biblical 100%. And like I said, I don't think you'd be hard pressed, I think. Check it. Google people who have given birth to children because of rape and their experience. Google people who haven't given birth to children because of their experience and listen to what they say. Really look between the lines and really see if the message that they're preaching is really what's in their heart. Do they really feel redeemed or not? Do they really feel better by committing violence against their own child, or don't they? And I think the truth of the matter is, I'm pretty willing to bet, I'd bet money, I'd bet the farm, that the truth of the matter is the women who have chosen to abort their children don't feel more healed, don't feel more whole because they have done so. They still feel violated because they feel like always within themselves that they had to do something that even maybe they didn't want to do, because society was telling them that it was okay to kill their own child and to be put into that situation. And so they never really feel healed and whole from that because they feel forced to have made such a decision. I don't see that bringing healing or peace or love or redemption or joy to anybody's life. I really don't see that happening. And it wasn't the experience of my friend's grandmother and her mother. And I truly don't think that's the experience of most. When you allow God to redeem the situation, He will do so 100% of the time when you lay it at His feet, because that's who He is. He carries the burdens for us. And what the devil wants you to do through rape and through violence, what he wants you to do is to be insulated. He wants you to withhold love. He wants to change your love map. He wants to change your ability to show love and compassion and transparency and openness to people. And frankly, abortion is just another log on that fire. It doesn't change the problem. It doesn't make you more free. It doesn't make you more whole. It just doesn't. Frankly, choosing to have your child will make you more free, make you more whole, because it acknowledges the fact that even though bad circumstances happen in life, things that you can't change, things you can't go back, and regrets that you have, but the truth is, when you have your child, you are ultimately saying to the world and to yourself that there's hope. And I believe that that message is ultimately a message God would want to purport. So I wanted to address one final thing in regards to the rape and the incest thing. That oftentimes people will say that for the sake of rape alone, abortion should be allowed. And whether or not you agree or don't agree for rape for abortion, and let's just say you do think it's okay, hypothetically. In life, we cannot make decisions on the whole of people based off of exceptions. Rape is an extremely rare exception. Incest is an extremely rare exception for obvious reasons, because no rapist wants to leave the DNA in a woman so you can go to jail, right? That makes obvious sense. So rape and incest, or the product of rape and incest, is extremely rare. Extremely rare. And so the reality is, can we make rules based on exceptions in life? If we did that, society would be complete chaos. You know, because somebody had a car accident, that means we can't drive cars? Because someone has choked on a peanut or has peanut allergies, that means everybody can't eat peanuts? I mean, the world would be absolute chaos if we made rules based off of exceptions. It's complete nonsense. We cannot do that. What should be a reality is that abortion should be banned completely, and there should be an arbitrator who decides these matters based off of, as I said, the life of the mother and so forth, which in my opinion should be the only exception. But if you do believe in the issue as rape, okay, then maybe they should arbitrate that. That there are solutions to the problem, and we shouldn't make concessions, you know, to what should be the right thing, because we're worried about these infinitesimally small amount of people who may have had, you know, been raped or had incest, you know, and then had a product of that. It's infinitesimally rare. And I don't think that the rights of everybody, that the rights of the 63.5 million children, the right to life should be violated based off of that infinitesimally small amount of people. So that's my personal take on that. I don't think that that's the way society should work. I don't think that that works in practice. It doesn't make sense. And so people try to exalt their own morality, and they try to basically make excuses for why abortion should be allowed, when at the end of the day, abortion is immoral. Because all life is ordained by God. Because God decides who has value. And He has decided that you have value. You have value to Him. And so abortion shouldn't be allowed for those reasons alone. Period. End of story. Always, except in my opinion, in the case of a clear violation and desecration of the mother's body that is pursuing her life to kill her. So with that exception, and that exception alone, my personal opinion is abortion should never be allowed. But I'm going to talk to you tomorrow about a related issue that is related to this, but not exactly the same. As I mentioned before, people mix these issues together, but I don't think they really go together. So I'm going to divide this issue separately and talk to you, when is a person a person? Is Dr. Seuss right? Is a person no matter how small? What does the Bible really say about this? You might be surprised. Stay with us tomorrow, and we're going to talk about that, and of course, our Hebrew word Wednesdays. God bless.